Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, let's make coffee. Okay, here's my review of this thing really quick too, okay? Airscape. It's got this little cover. It's got this little push thing in there, you can see. Alright. So, generally, it works. Alright, so that's good to know. Does it work? This would totally beat out those things like the fellow with the stupid thing where you go like this. Who wants to do that? This one, you just pull this out, and you actually hear the air coming out through here. There's no filter that I have to change or that can go faulty. I've only used it about a month, a little over a month now. And so what I've been doing is, like, after I roast coffee for you guys, anything that I have left over, I just dump it in here. And then I pop this guy in, make sure the bed of coffee is level. So I have this much coffee in it right now. So like half filled. And then I push it down like this. Make sure. And then see how this handle is like that, perpendicular? So just lay it flat. And then now it's closed. And then you put this little thing on top. So what I'll do every morning, it's kind of annoying, sits over there. This comes off. This has to go somewhere, right? And then in the morning when you're like barely awake, and look how big this thing is, I found that the best way for me to open is to hook the thumb here, okay? And then pull out evenly. And then this sits here. And then I have a scoop, which is just like this. I don't measure it anymore because I'm just like, that's too annoying. 1 scoop, 2 scoop, and that's about 24 to 27 gram. So I'll adjust that with my water. Instead of adjusting this whole thing and having to weigh it out, I just adjust my water. So I will now pour in, maybe it's 24, maybe it's 27 gram. And this is when I'm just making coffee on the regular, not if I'm trying to brew some like geisha special coffee. Okay, and then I'll adjust the water to 320 gram of coffee, typically. Okay, so that gives me a nice, really bold cup, which is what I like. You know, adjust to your preference. And then I even out the bed again, and then this goes back on. And it's fast. I know that it's working because I can hear all that air getting pushed out. Let's close this up. Boom, done. So a little big in my hands. I think they sell a smaller one. But it's great for a roaster because we just, every now and again you have a lot or a little left over that you have kind of hanging around. And it was super inconvenient to just try to, if I had leftover, put them in bags like this, because then obviously this doesn't hold a lot. So sometimes I would have a lot, sometimes have a little. This solves that issue. And it actually works. So I would have coffee in there for maybe like a roast from over a month ago and still tasting fresh, good. Still having a great smell of aroma. Of grinding it, smelling it. Like, I know what coffee smells like after doing it so long, after when it's just roasted like this one, and how sort of like, and how it reacts to the water pouring over, how much bubbles it kind of releases. And so I was always brewing a cup of coffee a little over a month that was still tasting fresh. So I was like, cool, it works. Anyway, it solved the issue of the whole like fellow. They had those 3 Atmos, fellow Atmos coffee storage cans. They don't work. So annoying. So I'm glad I found it. It works. More testing to be done and to be had, but for the most part, it works. Thank God. Just a less fussier too design. But like I said, the only con I'd say is just that kind of that bulkiness. Moving on from that, we have another thing, which is, I did a little like a type interview thing through Subkit. Never heard of it, but still I was like, the questions that they asked, and I think the answers that I gave them, I think were poignant and I think helpful. And I really would have liked to have heard some of these things when I first started roasting. So I'm just going to share some of that here, just because I get so many questions about how you first started and do you have any tips and can I pick your brain? And I'm always like, no, you can't pick my brain because time is money, you know what I'm saying? But, and I know some of you have asked to like pay and whatnot, but I feel weird about that. I figure these like little quick interviews that I do, written ones, I feel like I can expound upon in video format, and then it can live forever with you guys. And if it's helpful, then it's helpful. So that's what I'll do for you today. So like I said, I do like, since it's a little over 20 gram, I'll do like 320 water. And it's the way I like it, bold. And then I'm drinking the last of Panther Creek. It's already been sold out and off the website right now, from Burundi. It's a natural process coffee. I just ran like a little under, maybe about 800 grams through my Ikawa bag here, this guy, this morning. So it didn't even have a proper like 2 days, 3 days to off gas and rest. So it's probably going to be harsh, sharp. You can kind of taste those things in the cup sometimes with a natural process coffee that hasn't had time to rest and off gas and all that good stuff. But I had no coffee left because I'm using that new Airscape thingy. And typically what happens if I don't use a proper way of storing my coffee, I end up wasting some coffee that I have left over because it doesn't taste fresh, and so I have to toss it. Like if I had it in a bag like this, it just doesn't taste the same. So I think that is really doing its job, pushing the air out, actively pushing the air out when you store it. This is going to be an interesting cup, I think, just because I never kind of bulk roasted for myself on the Ikawa before. So it'll be interesting. I still have these on. Okay. How many of you do the shaky do, or you do something else? I just do this shaky do. Or do you have like an actual spoon and kind of like scrape it off? This gives me a really nice, even flat bed of grounds. And if you do the shaky do, you'll find out that you're going to need something like this, a plastic slippery sliding surface for your pour over, versus this, prettier, right? Like, why don't you use this? Well, it's freaking ceramic here, so let me show you what that sounds like. So, and it's harder too, like, you're like, ceramic on ceramic, not good. So, yeah. These are the little things, Okay, so let's get into this little interview from Subkit. I already answered, like I said, but I wanted to expand possibly on it. So the first question was, who are you and what do you do? So if you're new here, I'm going to skip that one. Obviously, I sell coffee. I sell roasted coffee. The next question was, how did you get started, and tell us about yourself? So I get this question a lot in my DMs. So I first started roasting coffee to actually save money. Like my husband was like, you're spending $20 a bag, $25 a bag. Why don't you roast your own? You like to do something like that. And actually he was trying to influence me to start another business, which we do now, yes. But actually to replace our existing business. So he was trying to do a little sneaky do there. But I was hella down if it all worked out. You know what I'm saying? So in actuality, I would end up spending so much more on coffee than I ever imagined I would. Even though the first initial thought was, I want to save money, roast your own coffee. Like, that's just not true. Okay, nevertheless, fortunately, I fell in love with the science and art of roasting. And I started on a hot top. I really love the idea of like, if I'm gonna learn this, and we're going to possibly make it into a business, I want to try to set myself up for success, basically, which was I want to do a hot top because it's a baby drum roaster. And then I want to have the hot top that actually uses roast software so that I can learn to roast like commercial roasters do in specialty coffee. So I had that set up. And then soon enough, I grew out of that. I was selling coffee on Etsy, and it was doing okay, and people were kind of getting excited about it. And I started to create content at the same time because I had so many of these little issues with the hot top, and not a lot of information out there that I would say was congruent to the questions that I was asking at the time. So I started to create content. Just there was a void in the information that I wanted, so I put out that information. And that's how I started making content. At that time, too, I was already used to coming on camera and making content. I think that's an important note to make because it's not easy for most to just get on camera and talk. And I think if some of you are thinking about making content but are uneasy about the idea of making content and getting in front of camera and doing this whole thing, the biggest tip that I could tell you, because it is absolutely necessary, I think, to market your business in a very competitive world of specialty coffee. It's not the only way, but I think if it's in your wheelhouse and if you have an interest in doing it, I think you gotta like it, for one thing. You don't have to love it. There are some things that you can learn to love over time. I absolutely didn't love the sound of my voice when I first started making videos, but I learned to love that too. And I think it's, I think it's a nice little self exercise one should do. Maybe not forever, but maybe for a little bit. Toy around with the idea of listening to your voice, being conscious of how you sound and how you act on camera and what presence you bring. I think that's important. It was important for me anyway. And that's why I chose to pursue and continue making content, because I'd already done it. I felt like it was good for me. It was a good therapy for me to come and do this kind of thing, and to keep doing it, and to document. I think that's another thing too, is like, you don't have to look at it as like, I'm making content. You can look at it like, I'm sharing what I'm doing. I'm sharing what I'm doing with my possible audience, or with whomever is interested, The next question was, what motivates me every day? What motivates me every day? I feel like, I wrote something here that I feel like is very true. I fell in love with the semi-science of art of roasting, in particular, learning about where coffee comes from and how special it is to drink it every day. It feels like I've unlocked a cheat code in life. Like, I get to drink this every day. Ooh, bomb. Okay, yeah. Yeah, cheat code unlocked. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I always kind of feel when I drink good coffee. I'm like, I get to drink this. And it doesn't cost me like an arm and a leg, typically, if I want to just buy a cup of coffee from like Clutch or wherever. Like, oh, the most it'll cost me maybe is about $5. So it's very accessible for me. What motivates me every day, this is the follow-up to this question, was I get to express another side of me. I just talked about the whole, like, for me in particular, vlogging and making content is very good for me. It's very good for my own self-growth and self-development. And I get to share the wins and the losses. And through social media and YouTube, I get to meet really cool people through coffee. I'm a really hard to get to know person in general. I don't go outside very often. I work very diligently. I'm very passionate about what the work I do. I have very few close friends that I could tell a lot of things to on one hand. So I'm not an easy person to just hang out with all the time in general. So for me, even though, with that being said, I do crave friendship and community and all that stuff. So my way of getting around my own weirdness or the my own inaccessibility, because I'm here in this island, I really don't leave, honestly, is to make videos like this. And so I get to be a part of the coffee and the roasting community, and which is very niche, right? Not only is it coffee, but it's specialty coffee and it's roasters. And we are a special bunch, I think, just with the roasters that I've met. Like, we care a lot about what we do. And not only that, we want to share that care and that love with the people who drink this. And I make the parallel to being a very like competent cook. I didn't know how to cook before I got married, and I taught myself through Tim Ferriss's book 4 Hour Chef, trial and error, conversations, and watching and sort of like looking back and reflecting on how my mom cooked, and how I share that with my husband today is like, that is my love language. That is my act of service. And so I feel like I'm a very competent cook in the kitchen. And when I step into the world of roasting and I learned just the foundation and the basics, I was like, oh wow, it's like cooking. So once I know, like, salty, acid, fat, sweet, and I kind of know how these work together, and I kind of know how these will operate when I do this, like, it's really similar to roasting coffee. There are some things that you just know because of experience, you know. And while I'm not as, I think, proficient a cook as I am a roaster, is really similar. And so it gives me confidence that I know that if I keep on this track, I will get to where I want to go. Okay. What is your biggest accomplishment was the question. So the biggest accomplishment was actually, I'm just kind of reiterating here, was actually gaining real confidence in my roasting ability. It was really difficult for me in the beginning to find my own voice or even trust it, just being a noob. When you're a noob, you're just like, please lead me, help me, trying to consume everything. But over time, and I think it kind of coincided with the age I am, I don't know, the point in my life that I was at that time, I've learned how to learn. So it's one thing to just consume. It's a whole other thing to put what you're learning and listening to into action, and then like going through the motion of actually doing it. Would you agree? So I can read about roast theory all I want, and I can tell you what the graph is supposed to look like. But then when you go to roast, say it's really cold outside. Say the coffee that you ordered was actually really dense, right? And so you needed a lot more heat, right? And it's not doing what it did 3 months ago. So it's like it's always changing, it's always evolving, roasting coffee. And so I think one of the most important things that I gleaned from my time roasting coffee was I learned how to learn better, if that makes any sense. And again, if I could make that, parallel, it's really like being a cook. What I can make in the kitchen now with the ingredients that I have, whatever they are, I'll still be able to make something tasty and satisfying and hearty for my husband to eat, and he'll be satisfied with that, and I'll like it too. Not only be satisfied, but really say, hey, this is really good, right? I really enjoy how visceral and almost simple roasting is. It's like, roast it, you have all the basics down, right? Roast it, taste it, adjust. If it's great, can you duplicate it? And that's the things that I got from my training at Klatch. He's like, this ain't rocket science. I was like, sure, it's not rocket science, but what you're doing day in, day out, and how diligent you are is not easy. There are hard parts in doing this. And so that brings us to the next question. What's the hardest part you've come up against in your time as a business owner? So I thought about this for a second, and I kind of like answered it in the way that we've gone through multiple failed business attempts and the business that we have right now, which what I say is successful, is that the hardest thing that I've come up against is the emotional toll that hard things or difficult things can take hold of you if you're not only prepared or willing to kind of like go through the emotional toll of the hardness of running a business and everything that entails. And so, if you haven't trained yourself to be prepared for it or to handle it or go through it, or have the mentality to go through it in such a way that doesn't feel like it's killing you, then yeah, the emotional stuff is going to get you. Okay. In the wake of life and dealing with difficult people, tasks, or things, I've learned to be stoic about it. I've learned to read and study again and revisit lessons of stoicism from the great, Greek Stoics, so taking what I can from their sort of like ancient Stoic mentality and applying it to this modern era and me as a woman and da da da. Like, not that that really matters, but yeah, a man talking about Stoicism will be different than what a woman will think about Stoicism is. It will just be different, and then you as an individual. Okay, so make your adjustments as needed. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I was saying. So for me, Stoicism is not apathy. It's not coldness, although it may at first feel cold. And those are our cues to practice Stoicism, is to be cold, cut off, don't care. But that's really not my understanding of it. It's more like having just a greater understanding of the bigger picture, like Thanos. Thanos from the Avengers, like, y'all are not listening. Y'all are, they're like really concerned about your little Earth world. I'm concerned about the whole universe, okay? So he was just making decisions like that. And I think that's really useful in terms of, even though he was the bad guy, I think that was useful in how to deal with difficult people, difficult things, difficult tasks. Look at the greater picture. Don't let yourself be personally wounded or fatally wounded by things that haven't killed you. If you're not dead, and I could really speak to that, right? Y'all, if y'all know my falling off the boulder story, if you're not dead, you can change. It's not the end of the world if it's not the end of the world. Okay. I don't think I'll ever master this mentality of Stoicism, but I think it helps to know that sometimes if and when something gets hard, to know that that's why. Because hard things are hard, okay? Like, it is what it is. And you can either soldier through it, but I think to know that and to understand, like, oh yeah, I forgot, it's supposed to be hard. Well, or else everybody would do it, right? Sometimes we forget things are hard for a reason, or maybe they're hard to teach you a lesson. Maybe they're hard because maybe you're not supposed to take this route, whatever. You can really dive in deep to it. But I think it helps me to push myself, my mentality to not get so emotional about it and just like, all right, let's find a solution then, right? Or let's get on track. Like, let's stop being in our feelings and just do the work that's required. What's required of me now? Okay, shit, it's hard. What's required? Do I need to make a better system? Do I need to fire this person? Do I need to fire myself from this position? Etc., etc. Okay. Last thing. They asked, what are your 3 tips to give to anyone looking to start, run, and grow a business today? I get this a lot, so I thought this was prudent. But I'm sorry, but I think if these are general, but if they point you in the right direction, then it's worked. Okay? Prepare your mind. Study and practice Stoicism. Don't just go look it up on Google Dictionary. I would recommend a book, like your Marcus Aurelius. YouTube it. Daily Stoic. Start there. I'll give you 2. Okay. Get used to the idea of failing a lot and have a forward mentality of just putting in the work. I think maybe We're too afraid of working hard these days. We're too afraid of doing and learning and failing and learning and doing again. I think we're afraid of that because we live in a world of convenience. So we're maybe too used to having somebody else do it or do it for us when sometimes you just got to do it. Just buckle down and do it. I think that message is sometimes missing. It's hard, it's annoying, it's boring, it's monotonous, it's beneath me. Just do it. Sometimes that's what it takes, okay? 3, last one, model the leaders of businesses and models you want to emulate in the long run. Yeah, every business is kind of the same in the first like 3 to 5 years. It's hustling hard, it's sacrifice, put it whatever number you want, 3 to 5 years, whatever. In the beginning, it's all kind of the same. You're doing everything yourself. You're learning everything yourself. You have no work-life balance, da da da. But maybe look at a business where they've been in business for, I don't know, over 10 years or something, and they have a family life or a lifestyle. Maybe you don't want a family. They have a lifestyle that you want to emulate. So I would model that. Like, what did you do to be sitting on a beach right now and still have your business running? What did you do to just come in at 9 a.m. and leave by 3 p.m.? What did you do to have 5 kids and your husband's at home helping you take care of them? Like, what? Yeah, so what are the systems? Because you ideally, you don't want your business to be running your life. You want to have a business that supports the life that you want, right? Ideally. And however long it gets you to set that up for yourself, that's going to vary. I can't tell you that. But ideally, if you don't, just want to be working all the time, because you could definitely do that. You can definitely do all the jobs, but maybe one would get tired. I don't know. Maybe one would want to go on a vacation, go on a date, I don't know, have children or whatever your life goals are beyond business, beyond working. Even though I think work is very important, I want to be working. I want to be working at something that I like to do in my riper years, in my older years. I think that's really the only way to keep my mind sharp as much as possible before I die. So I just want to use my brain as much as I can, whether that's working for the dollar or working for the man or working for ourselves, cool, whatever. So yeah, I hope that helps. I get these questions in the DMs a lot, so it was cool that it kind of coincided with this little email, with this interview in the written format, but I wanted to give the verbal extended version as I like to do. Okay, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.